All right. So Plato, Socrates, their ideas about reality and the nature of reality and what exists, how it exists, these ideas have been entertained by Western civilization for thousands of years. So there's probably something there that's worth considering and worth continuing to think about. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to believe that what they thought was what you should think, or that what they said was true was true. You can disagree with them, but you probably want to understand the important points in their thinking. Most important, ideas are real. They're more real than the material things like burritos and ink pens that exist in the world. Ideas exist in an aspect of reality, the intelligible realm, that we grasp with our reason, with our intellect, and it's entirely separate from the physical world that we apprehend through our sense organs, okay? And the pure perfect forms that exist in the intelligible realm are a higher degree of reality than what exists in our material world here. Ultimate reality is this non-material realm. It's non-physical. The physical reality is real, but it's not the ultimate. It's not what's most real in their metaphysics. In fact, the world that we live in and all the things is just its appearance. Everything that we see in the world, like this can of water or my thing of vitamins here, these things are just representations of ideas that exist in pure, perfect, unchanging forms. Whoops. Wisdom, says Socrates, says Plato, begins when you realize this, that ultimate reality is what you try to achieve through the sheer force of reason, and you don't get duped into thinking that the reality is the material world that we live in. If all things are expressions of the forms, these pure perfect forms that we grasp through our intellect, and the forms are expression of the ultimate good, then we're expressions of the ultimate good. In other words, we are, as the non-material parts of ourselves, our psyche, our soul, our mind, this non-material aspect of ourselves is more real than our bodies, than our physical self. Like Socrates says, you can't harm me because I'm not my body. I have a body. I'm a possessor of a body, but that's not the real me. The real me is non-material, so there's nothing you can do to harm that physically. And that real me, that non-material me, emanates ultimately from the ultimate source of all things, this ultimate goodness. But, says Plato, says Socrates, the trauma of being born, they had some weird ideas, the trauma of being born caused us to kind of forget, almost like amnesia. Oh my gosh, I forgot what I really am. I forgot my non-material self. So I have to discover it, rediscover it, using pure reason, logic, these tools that allow us to grasp ideas and allow us to access that ultimate good. So to know thyself is not this narcissistic obsession that we might interpret that phrase now. It's to know the good. It's to know the ultimate that we come from. So knowledge is really about recollection. It's not about learning things that are new. And there's an interesting, I can't remember if this is in the Republic or it's in one of the dialogues. But Plato shows Socrates talking to this kid, and he's trying to show the kid who thinks he doesn't understand geometry because he's never learned it. He's trying to show the kid, no, you really do. You just have to recollect it. And he has this little scene where he's like, I think doing triangles or something in the dirt with a stick. And all of a sudden the kid's like, oh yeah, I get that. I understand how those right angles function that way. And Socrates is like, oh, boom, told you. You knew it all along. You just didn't remember it. All right. So now what we got to explore next is kind of your worldview. What's your ontology? What things exist and how do they exist? What is the nature of reality? What do you think? Is reality the way it appears to be? These are decisions you have to make, okay? So what's reality like? Is it an ever-changing place? Is reality constantly changing, or is it static and not changing at all? What's real, and what does it even mean to say that something's real? When someone says get real, what do they mean? What exists in your ontology? I know burritos probably do. They better. And automobiles and vitamins and teachers and students. What about ideas like beauty? Is that just purely a matter of individual opinion? Or is there some idea of beauty that seems to be a part of the universe. Maybe not a part of the material universe, but some way a part of the universe. People have had ideas about beauty forever. Do people just keep recreating that idea over and over and over again? Or does that idea exist and they're discovering it and just coming up with different representations of what beauty is? What should you strive for, avoid? If you understand what you think is real and how reality is structured, you're going to be able to answer these questions much better than if you don't. What should you worry about? What should you not worry about? You remember Socrates, I don't care if you kill me. Who cares? I don't sweat it, because that's not the real me that you're killing. What do you think? Is there an aspect to you that's non-material, that lives on in some form after your physical body dies? Or are you just a meat puppet? How should you live? If you're just a meat puppet that's not real, if you're just a meat puppet that has no non-material self that's going to exist after you die, I would imagine you're probably going to live a little differently than if you believe, no, I'm not layered. I'm multidimensional. I have a non-physical self and a physical self. What would a Platonic experience of love and work and art be like? What does yours? Okay? What does your worldview indicate should be your experiences of love and work and art? What should you take your time to learn? And how do you learn it? Do you go out into the world and do science experiments? Is that the way that you learn about reality? Or do you meditate and think, read? How do you learn? So these are some of the questions that you're going to be exploring here in the next few weeks. And it's a good opportunity to get clear about these things because it'll help you better understand how you want to spend the time of your life.